David Andrew Weeb, founder of Spark Infinity niche-based Facebook group. David, what is going on in Spark Infinity?
Spark Infinity has been growing pretty rapidly since January. We started with literally 4 or 5 members, now to well over 1,400 people, serving creatives and creators, poets, artists, visual artists, musicians, actors, actresses.
What should members of Spark Infinity be prepared for? What are the live shows about?
We like to interview people and get a sense of who they are, the kind of things they do, highlight them, and especially their amazingness, their personality, their superpowers, whatever makes them great. That's what we like to highlight in those conversations.
So how could members of Spark Infinity also benefit from Bump Global?
For one thing, there are so many amazing heart-centered founders of various niche-based Facebook groups that if you wanted to be interviewed, you could just put yourself in the middle of the storm and find all kinds of groups to be featured in and interviewed in all day long. And the other thing is, if they have the desire and the work ethic to build their own niche-based Facebook group and blow it up, that's another opportunity that's waiting for them. And I only see things growing from there.
Good day, Spark Infinity. It's David Andrew Weeb here, and we are joined for the 3rd time by Diane Richardson. How are you, Diane?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm always good.
Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, you're kind of cutting in and out, but that's okay. Now I can hear you.
Good. Yeah, it seems we might have a slight delay, but hopefully it works itself out. So we were talking
You
before
can
the
speak
show.
sign otherwise to me.
You have to speak sign to you. No, the connection on my side should be fine. Make sure to check your audio so you can hear me well. But
Well, this is good. Yeah, my
Okay.
volume's good.
So yeah, you mentioned before the show that there was another incident or another event that occurred to you that was rather miraculous that you wanted to share. What is it?
There was. When I was living in California, okay, so I was in California from 1986 to 88. So it was just a couple years. And in that abusive marriage and teaching behaviorally disordered kids, special education. And during that time, before I got a job, my husband said, "You need to go get a job." So I said, "Well, I'm looking for a teaching job." So I picked up the paper and I always thought of acting. And here I was in California, because like I told you before, I always wanted to be an actor. So I looked in the paper and here was a little ad, seriously, this small, in the newspaper that said actors wanted, actors and models wanted. And I thought, oh, that sounds great. And I'm in California. So I called up the phone number. Back then, we didn't have the internet, So I called up the phone number and someone answered and they said, "This is what you need to do. Just you come to our studio. It's in Century City, which is right next to Hollywood." And they gave me the directions and the address because we didn't have navigators back then. And so I was super excited. I went and they really didn't say an audition, they just told me to come. So I went in there and there was a line and inside, and not these long lines like you're trying out for a film or a commercial. It was just a small line of people that they said that could come. And so I went in. So she had me go into this room and there was a man in there and he said he wanted me to do a reading for him. First reading ever. Never did anything like that. So I read, and they had cameras on me, so it was intimidating. And so I did this reading and it was like a commercial. I don't remember what it was, but I got done and he said, "That was very good." He said, you're like a Procter and Gamble girl. The toothpaste.
Mm-hmm. Of
I
course.
said,
Big company.
how complimentary is that? Because they had a lot of Procter and Gamble commercials back then. It was one of the main companies. And so it was very exciting. So then I went out of the room and the lady said, "We're interested in you." So I needed to sign up for a slot to get my headshots and my body shots taken. And so, and then she gave me the amount of money that it would cost. And I had no money in that marriage. You know, he was taking all my money. And I didn't know what I was going to do. So I didn't tell her no. So what I did was any change that I got, I put in a little container because I had some time. I put it in a little container and I stuck it on the top shelf of the closet and I hid it because I didn't want him to steal my money. So every time I had change, I put more in and I just kept doing that. And then if I did the laundry and he had change in his pocket, I'd throw it in my little container. Kept adding up. And I ended up saving enough money to be able to get my photo shoot done. So I went back there. I had a photo shoot done, a professional shoot, and it was really, really exciting. I had 3 changes. I had, remember if it was athletic, I don't know, kind of casual, and then I'd do the swimsuit, not the bikini, but the swimsuit. And back then I was in mint shape, you know, so it wasn't a big deal for me to put a suit on, and I was young. And so I did that. And then, so I got into the agency. And I had my first agent right outside Hollywood when I was about 26. I forgot to tell you that. So I actually had a little hiccup of a career, we could say. All right. I was working another job that I got, which was in women's clothing at Loehmann's, designer clothing. And so I got a call there and I picked it up. It was my agent. And she said, "I have a commercial for you. You need to audition, come and audition in my office." And I said, "I can't." I was the only one at the desk. And if I would have left, I would have gotten fired. And I needed the job because I didn't have a teaching job yet. I needed the money. So I had to turn her down, which wasn't good. She didn't say anything, but you know, it was my first commercial audition. Then another time she said, well, I think I stopped in the office for some reason. I had to go in there and get some paperwork, I think. And she said, "I have a video for you to do in Hollywood. So this is the address." And she didn't tell me who the artist was. So I found, and I went into Hollywood, and it was just all dirty. And, you know, I mean, the basic Hollywood is not clean and pristine. And I mean, it was back then even. It was dirty, and there were strip clubs and dirty stores all over. I had never seen anything like that in my life, you know, and I thought, oh, where am I going? What kind of a video is this? But, you know, she was a clean agent, so I didn't have any of that stuff. So I went up to the building. It was a big building, and I went up to the door and I pushed the doorbell and nobody was answering. So then I thought I had the wrong building. So I was looking around and this girl came up behind me and she said, "Are you here for the video?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Okay, well, I think we probably have to go over there." So we pushed the bell again, and then they said, "What are your names?" And we gave the names to the person who we couldn't see. And then they told us, "Yep, go around the building and you'll see a gated area. And you walk up to the tower or whatever by the gate and you tell them who you are." So her and I did that. And so it was like a big warehouse. Okay, so we walked into the warehouse and it had already started, but they were like, "That's okay," you know, because I just found out about it. They still wanted me. So it was for an extra, you know, to be in the audience, in the crowd for a concert. So when we were walking over there, the lady had really long black hair, straight black hair. And I thought it was Cher. Oh, we're going to be in a Cher video. And we walked up into the crowd and we're pretending to be in the audience, And when she turned around, she was Asian. That's not Cher.
Yeah.
So we didn't even know who she was. So we were just pretending like we were really enjoying it. Well, she was a good singer, but we were really confused because we thought it would be somebody we knew for sure, and we had no clue who that lady was. And so, and we found out that we can say whatever we wanted and nobody could hear us because it's all dubbed out. All you'd hear is her. And so we're saying things like, "Oh, you sound so good. This is a great concert." We're just saying things. And it was really hilarious. And so it was a lot of fun. And that was my first experience on set, you could say. So then they said, "Okay, now go over there to the guy sitting in the chair and he will pay you." Walked over there, wrote us a check, hand us a check. And I don't remember what it paid, but it was really good pay for like an hour. And I thought, this is awesome, So, okay, the other thing. So then another thing she had said was, "Okay, I want you to go to this casting agency. It's for extras. So you could probably also see if you can get in there." She gave me the address and it was in Hollywood. So I found my way, and she said, "Go really, really early because there's going to be a lot of people and you have to wait in line." So I got there like 6 a.m, and there was a line in the parking lot that was like a snake, all around. I thought, oh, that early already, there were that many people. And so I was standing in line and we were waiting. And they were really late with whatever they were going to do. They were just like, looking at her, like, what time? When are they coming? They took their happy time, All of a sudden we see 3 men coming in suits, like they looked really important, coming into the parking lot. And they started on the side of the line over here. And they walked along and they looked at a person, "You?" And they walked along, "You?" That's all they did. And what they had to do was go over to this building over here, which was the extras casting building. They had to go in there, but it was just you. So they were coming around and I was, I wonder if they're going to get picked me or not. I'm all excited. So they come up, "You?" And I started going like this. They said, "Not you." I said, "You weren't pointing at me?" They said, "No, we were pointing at the one next to you." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." They said, "Oh, go ahead." So I wasn't actually picked and I didn't know. I mean, they were like that. I thought they were pointing right at me. But so I went over to the building and I went in and signed up, and we'd had our headshot and everything. So I got my headshot put in the file, which was back then a paper file. So I put it in the file and filled out a form. And so I was in that. It was called Atmosphere Casting Company, and they still have one in Chicago and I think some of the other big cities. But that was it. That's all I ever got to do with it because I ended up getting divorced. So it was difficult because I was so excited that I was actually going to be an actress. And then I had decided to come back. So it wasn't just, it was one of the things that made it difficult for me to come to Wisconsin again. But there were so many other things that weighed heavily for me to come back that were important and that were taking, believe it or not, priority over being an actor. That was a want, and I was going for things that I needed, which were a lot of things here in Wisconsin that I needed for me. So yeah, that was my first acting experience, was actually in California and Hollywood. So
Yeah. Fascinating. It sounds to me like the opportunity was presented to you earlier in life, just given the nature of everything you were going through at the time. Maybe not fully ready for it, but you did kind of build your resume in a way.
Well, I'm glad that I didn't become an actor then, because I probably wouldn't be here. Because I was drinking, I was taking Valium, I was extremely depressed. And I know I would have been one of those actors that would have died. I would have killed myself, and I did try to commit suicide there. I would have overdosed on pills, or something would have happened while I was drinking, or maybe I would be showing up on set drunk or hungover, would be probably more likely. And it would have been bad.
Yeah.
So God had a plan for me.
Yeah.
So
some industries are exceedingly tough unless you show up exact. Like if they say jump, you got to jump. If they say show up this time, this day, you got to be there. And if you had shown up or not shown up, or if you had shown up drunk or hungover, that would have had ramifications for your career.
Absolutely. I wasn't ready. And to say the least, I would have had trouble memorizing. Not that I don't now, but I mean, because my mind would be in a fog. And so God just put this in my life at the perfect time when I didn't expect it. I wasn't even going for it. I mean, that wasn't the initial plan. And it just kind of fell into my lap. And I haven't stopped because I've never wanted to stop. I thought back to California. I still have those California pictures, I was skinny and young. And, but I don't dwell on it because it wouldn't have been good for me. So I'm very happy with having become a teacher, changed my life in 1990 and become a whole person, so that now I can give to people authentically.
Yeah.
I can be the real me, which is a better person.
Thanks for sharing another aspect of your journey. I'm sure our viewers and listeners are going to get a lot out of that. I know something else that you wanted to touch on today was some of the projects that you're either working on or going to be working on. What would you like to share with us?
Well, I'll share what I'm doing right now as of yesterday. So I just got an audition, and the audition is for a radio show. Yeah. So for storytelling, and it's a Christmas story. And it would be my first radio show if I were to get the role. I have auditioned for one other, and I did not get that one. I really wanted it, but I didn't get it. So this one just fell in my lap. I submitted. I thought that I fit the role well. And so I've been studying. I started studying last night a little bit. And then today, actually this morning before I did my antique work, I engrossed myself in it because I have a French accent in it. And so I used to speak French. I took French in high school for 4 years, and I got straight A's. And I do remember a lot of French. I'm just not, well practiced at it lately. I haven't been. I mean, I do throw things out here or there that are French, que tu voudras, so you never know what you're remembering. And so, but basically it's not speaking French, it's speaking with a French accent. And so that's what I'm reviewing. And I've got my script. It's 3 different sides that I'm working on. I can't tell you what it's about, or I can't give you the title, not yet. If I get it, I do announce that. But, in case other people want the audition and they didn't get it, you don't want them to feel bad and say, oh, she got it. It's just, there's drama. So I don't choose to announce what any of my auditions are for.
Hmm.
And I don't speak about them unless I got the role. The role will be announced and the project will be announced.
Yep.
So that's what I'm working on. It's very exciting. I've taken notes on my script. So I'm, crossing out, like you don't say the letter H in French. So I'm crossing out all the H's in my script. So I make sure that I don't say them. The cool part of it is I don't have to memorize it.
Right.
It's a read along. I just read it. But I still need a lot of strong prep for it because I need to be well versed in the French accent.
Yeah.
So I'll see if I can read something in a French accent.
I was certainly curious to know that they're still producing content for radio. I guess when I really think about it, it makes sense. There's still a lot of people listening to radio, so why wouldn't they? And at the same time, it is an industry where audio or voice acting is often celebrity driven nowadays, and there's also AI, so it's kind of hard to know how things are being produced or which way things are going, but it's cool. That's cool that you're working on a project like that.
Yeah, this is a Christian radio station, and I'm very familiar with it. It's national, which is exciting. So that's why I would love to get into it. And it's just if I said the name, a lot of people know it. So it's very reputable, and they tell stories on it. All right, and a lot of the Christian radio stations have stories, for the kids on them. So this is kind of an adult kid story, and it's a fun one, and it's interesting. So I'm excited about it.
That's great. Is there anything else you're working on right now?
So, that's my current audition. I submit for commercials every week almost, and it's hit or miss. And it's just been miss. And as you get older, you don't get as many. They've got their age brackets, and I don't really fit into a typical grandma. I can fit into more of a hip grandma. I still get mother roles. So I'm kind of in the middle of both right now. But as far as if you watch a commercial for somebody for Depends or a health, you see all those health commercials for medications and everything, for the seniors. That's my age line, right? So a lot of those people in those commercials are gray haired.
Mm-hmm.
They're grandma looking, but the old school grandma looking. And I wish they'd break out of that. It would give me more of an opportunity. But I would be willing to dye my hair gray temporarily to be in one of the commercials, but right now I've got, some gray coming through, but, I'm not going to dye my hair gray and walk around gray if I can have my hair, my natural color like this. Why do I want to do that? No. So that it's hard to get commercials, but it's, I think when I was younger and I was platinum blonde, I just got more. It's just the way it was, and so I'd say the more recent ones I've gotten are like casinos. I've had, I think, 4 casino commercials, grocery stores. I've had 2 grocery store ones, U.S. Cellular, Verizon, your cell phone companies, ones like that are more general. I have been in Packer commercials where I've just been, an extra, because it's hard to get into a regular Packer commercial with a main role with the player or the coach, that's a big deal. And you'll be lucky if you ever get that. So, they mostly use the players and the coaches to do the commercials.
Sure.
To attract people. But trying to think if there's anything else really going on. I just have a lot of commercials on hold that I've submitted for, and what I do is I black out my calendar for those dates. So let's say there's 2 dates next week that the commercial is a possibility. They get blacked out, and I have no plans, and I wait. And sometimes I don't find out until the day before, or I might not find out at all. So I cannot unblack them, or whatever you call them, white them out. They have to remain blocked out because I don't know if I'm going to get it. And I can't all of a sudden say, oh, I made plans. But what I do is, if I'm going to make plans with a friend or make plans with family, I will tell them, well, there's a possibility that I have a commercial. So the date is blacked out, but I will make plans with you. But you need to know that I might have to cancel. So let's just put it down and I will let you know. And that's what I have to do. I have to do it all the time. And it's because commercials are a drop in the bucket. I might be doing all the plans with everybody, but I'm not going to sit and not make plans or do anything other than, my antique work. I'm going to make plans and be with people and be social. But that's the difficult part of acting. Films are different. Films, you get advance notice of the dates, the times. Yeah, you get your call sheet, and and they're set. They don't change. Early. You plan early. If you got to get a room or somebody's going to put you up, the whole plan ahead of time. So it's solid. But commercials are a whole different ball of wax. They are really, but I'm still submitting. I have an agent for that. I still submit. So I just submit and I go on to the next one. Submit for that one, I go on to the next one. Unless you hear from them, And then I leave it in my emails in case I have to refer back to it if I get it. But I make a note in my calendar what it's for, so I don't forget. Possible commercial for General Electric. Possible commercial for whatever, because there might be 4 commercials for a month that I've submitted for, and I don't want to all of a sudden, you got the commercial, and then I'm not sure what it is, although they'll probably label it. But anyway, I like to know what's coming up. And so,
definitely.
Yeah, I'm pretty organized that way with my calendar. It's necessary. That.
Yeah, it really is. Within Spark Infinity, as you know, we've got a variety of creatives and creators. Is there any wisdom you'd like to share with them?
Well, the wisdom I'd like to share is that you can't expect anything in particular. Ever. You have to go into things without expectations. And that's extremely difficult for anybody, including me. So it's not just as far as your career, that I'm going to expect to get that commercial. As I say, I submit, I go on to the next one. I can't dwell on it. I think I'm going to get it, When are they going to get a hold of me? I think I'm going to get it. You can't expect it because it might not happen, but tomorrow might not happen either.
Yeah.
So I can't expect that Christmas is going to be great and I'm going to do all this stuff. I can plan on it, but don't expect that it's going to be exactly the way that you're thinking, because it never is anyway. We spend more time worrying and figuring everything out than is at all necessary. We take something and I'm horrible at it. But if I get into it and I'm spinning, figuring it all out, I stop the thought. And I had to learn this. This is a skill. Stop the thought. Okay, that's not happening yet. You can't figure out how it's going to be. That way you won't let yourself down so much.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to turn out the way that you want it. So whether it's your job or whether it's anything, if I take a walk and I'm like, I'm going to see a deer today, I know where they are. So I've got my camera and I'm going to get a good shot of one. Well, if I don't see one and it doesn't come out like it usually does on my walk, I can't be all disappointed and bummed out because I didn't get to experience that. I expected something that might not happen. I mean, it's kind of a dumb example, but I'm just saying it can be anything.
Yeah. I think that's definitely important to process, and worrying about things that haven't happened. Like, that was a big part of my training, advanced leadership and communication and personal development training that I received, was not giving power to what hasn't happened yet, because you don't really know what's going to happen or how it's going to turn out. So those are some excellent points. Is there anything else we should talk about? Did you get to talk about everything you wanted to?
Well, how much do you want me to talk? I was going to talk about some of my early career, because I little touched on California, but I could talk about my first couple films and keep it brief if you want. I don't know how much time.
Yeah, I think a brief overview would be fine. Totally.
Okay. So my first film, I was on stage. I was in community theater before I was in film or commercials. And so I was on stage, and for How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, I was Hetty LaRue, the redhead that every man in the office wanted. So it was a comedic role. It was a lot of fun. So I was in the dressing room with the lead. Her and I were getting undressed as fast as we could because we got to do costume changes and get back out there. So we're in there, and she says, my director saw you, and he's wondering if you want to be in my film, or his film, my film. Well, she's the star in that film. So he talked to her at the intermission, asked who I was, and asked if I wanted to be in the film. So I thought, oh, okay. So I told her right in the dressing room, yes. What's his name? So then I got a hold of him, and he was right here from Appleton. And he had made a couple other small films, indie films. And so I emailed him, and he said, well, I would like you to be a cougar. And I said, no, I don't want to be a cougar. If you want me to be in your film, I would rather not be a cougar. It was about speed dating. Okay. So I said, I would like to be a gross speed dater. Can I be a gross speed dater? And he said, sure, because it was a comedic scene. So I thought, well, that would be a lot of fun. That would be a lot more fun than me being a cougar that's after the young guy. I don't want to dress in leather. I just didn't want to do it. So I got to improv. All of us were different characters, and the guy would go from one seat to the next, like speed dating, and we would react with the actor as he's trying to figure out who he wants to date. So that was a lot of fun, and it was very unexpected. So it was a love story too. It was called Boy Minus Girl. And then the second film, which was the same year, the only reason I heard about it was because there was an article in the paper or in the media or something, I can't remember, called Bucky and the Squirrels. So this Hollywood crew was coming in from California, or they were already here. So they came in from California, from Hollywood, with their whole crew and the actors, and to do this film called Bucky and the Squirrels. And a woman that went to Lawrence University, which is our entertainment musical college here, and theatrical college. It's a pretty prestigious one. So an actor for the lead went to school there. And so she wanted to bring everybody back, because she was acting out there, bring everybody back to film here in Wisconsin, downtown Appleton. And so I heard about it, and I thought, oh, it was for an extra role again. So because that's how I started, in the extras. And so I found out about it. So I got to be in a few scenes, and I was chosen as a primary extra. So I was in a concert scene. They put me in the front row and in the middle, where basically I was, again, like it reminded me of being in California with the singer, but it was kind of a goofy thing. And then I was in another scene in the ice cream store. And it was a scene where Bucky had an ice cream cone, and he kept dropping his cone, and his ice cream would fall off. And I was right here looking at the ice cream, and I had to not look at that going on. And you could hear what was going on and what they were all saying, and it was hilarious. So then when they cut it, then we can look, and then they're cleaning up the ice cream, and then they had to get another scoop for him to do the scene again. So it was hilarious. And then I was in a scene where it was a thrift store in town where I was shopping for thrift clothes. But anyway, so it was just fun. And that was my introduction into acting in town here. Yeah, I got a couple Appleton films. So I lucked out.
That's terrific.
Yeah, it was. And then, well, as I said before, I got into a lot of college films, indie films. That was my start. And as far as other advice for actors is, you need to give of yourself, give of your money, give of your time, and sacrifice. You need to sacrifice to get what you want. You can't expect to get it handed on a platter. You need to do what you need to do to make it happen. It's work. And you can see your results by the work that you put in with anything. And so that's what I did. I drove all over the place. And boy, was I happy that I could finally get a car that I didn't have to worry about to drive around to do these films. Because, And I'll never forget the first time I went downtown Chicago. I was scared to death. I remember I went to an audition for a commercial, and I was smacked down right downtown. And, I was just by the highest skyscraper, and I was driving down that street like I felt like an ant. It was intimidating. And I had to go into one of the buildings, so I had to look at the numbers. No navigator back then. So I'm looking and trying to drive with all the traffic, and it was just chaotic. It was crazy. But I needed to do it, to get to where I am now. And I did all those things that were difficult. So, you have to take a risk. And all that. Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely excellent note to end on. And thank you so much, Diane, for coming on to Spark Infinity a third time. It's been great having you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Amazing. Spark Infinity. Thanks for watching. See you soon.